Today we're going to make this embroidered rope bowl with custom colored rope. Stay tuned. I'll explain to you how you can dye your rope, how to use any kind of embroidery design inside your rope bowl, frame it out, and make a custom rope bowl. Let's go over our supplies. I'm using this Stitch and Store tote design. It's a bonus design from the Bella box. You can use a different design and size it to fit. This is designed for a 5x7 hoop size. If you have another design that'll work with a 5x7 hoop, can use that. I've already cut my fabric. You have to have a 3.5 inch fabric square, and you want to put your fusible on the back. This is a Flower House Basic from Robert Kaufman. We're going to need a base fabric for our rope bowl, one piece, 8 inches square, and then the base bottom, you need 2 pieces. These are 8x10, and what you want to do is fold it wrong sides together so the short edges meet, and then go ahead and press that. Do that to both sides. We'll need that at the end to make the base back. You need some shape form interfacing, 2 8-inch squares. You can iron on this. Mine had creases. I went ahead and I ironed on it. You can put a piece of fabric over it to make sure you don't accidentally melt it, and it'll iron nice and flat. A medium cutaway stabilizer. Need some paper tape, and then pick your thread colors. Mine are going to be a little bit different since I'm changing the fabric and the colors. And you need project rope. I've custom dyed this project rope. This is dyed with Rit colored teal. I'll link that in the description box below. You can watch the video and see how you can custom color your Kimberbell Project Rope. I have more than enough here. I have 29 feet of rope. This is what was extra from the May Hoop Studio project, and I decided to dye it. When we go to sew together the rope bowl, you want a thread that closely matches color of your rope. This looks like it's too bright, but when you string it out, it blends in really well. This is the closest color that I had. You can use a contrasting thread color if you'd like it to stand out against your rope. These are the thread colors I'll be using today. I'm using an 8-inch square embroidery hoop. You want to hoop some medium cutaway stabilizer. Remember to hand tighten and screwdriver tighten. To do this project, we're going to get creative with our software on our embroidery machines. I have a Baby Lock Meridian. I believe if you have any other Baby Lock machine, it's going to look very similar. Same as a Brother machine. You could probably do this in embroidery software. I know a lot of people use Embrilliance. I don't have that. I have Floriani software. This project can be done entirely on your machine with a little bit of manipulation. The first thing we're going to do is load our file. This is the Bella Box bonus file, but you can pick any file. I just want to use this one. So I'm going to pull that off my USB. It's in the bonus designs. This one is the totes. There's a couple designs in here. I'm going to use this one, the vase with the flowers. It comes up sideways because when you stitch on those totes, you put the tote in sideways. I'm going to go ahead and hit the set button. My machine has an edit button and a rotate feature. I'm going to go ahead and rotate this 90 degrees so it's right side up. You don't have to do that. I just like looking at it right side up. I'm going to add a frame to this. I want to make a round rope bowl. I'm going to hit the add button. Right here I have frames on my machine. I think most embroidery machines have frames. I even have a 4-inch only embroidery machine that just does little itty bitty things, and it has frame selection on there. I'm going to go with a round frame, but again, you can pick any shape that you want. I'm going to choose just the simplest round frame I can find. This is just going to be an outline. Bringing that up, I'm going to hit the set button. And you can see it's right on top of the design. It's not big enough. We need to hit our edit button, and I'm going to change the size. It has a couple different selections. You can do everything smaller, everything bigger, and select which part you want to enlarge or shrink. I'm going to make everything bigger until it goes around that design. So you can push and hold it, and when you get close to the size you want, you can go slower if you want. I'm going to go ahead and go bigger, and if you go too big, like that, that's a little big. I'm going to go ahead and bring that down a bit. I like it right there. My machine's measuring in millimeters. It says 150 millimeters. It goes around my design. It's not touching anything. That's a perfect size for me. I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to go ahead and save this on my machine. There's a memory button, and you can hit the picture of the machine. It'll save it to my machine. I can delete it later. You can also save it to a USB. This is what we're going to be working with. The first thing I want to do is just stitch out the circle. I'm going to use that, and I'm going to make the base reinforcement for my rope bowl. I'm going to go ahead and hit the embroidery button, and you can see where it wants to start because it wants to move through the stuff to stitch the tote. I'm going to use my plus minus, and the circle will be last because I just added that. There it is. To exit out of this, I hit the OK. This is going to stitch out the circle. This is going to be an outline for me to place my flexi form. I have a neutral thread color on my machine. I'm going to go ahead and stitch that circle right on the medium cutaway stabilizer. I've got the circle. Let me bring that a little bit closer. What I want to do is take one piece of the flexi form and make sure I put that over that stitch line. I'm going to add a few pieces of tape. Sorry, it's called shape form. There's flexi foam and shape form. I've got that taped down. Now, since that was the last step of the whole design, we're back at the beginning. I want to stitch the exact same thing again. It's going to tack that down for me. We're going to stitch the circle again. Go ahead and take this out of the hoop and then trim right on that stitch line. You can even trim a little bit inside if you want. What we're going to do with this piece at the end is tuck it in the base of the rope bowl to give it some extra stability. Go ahead and pull that out, and you want to go ahead and take off that medium cutaway stabilizer. You don't need it. Set this aside for later. Load another piece of your medium cutaway, hand tighten, screwdriver tighten. We're back at the beginning. We're going to stitch that circle again. We want a placement line, and then we're going to tack down the shape form and our base fabric. So advance to your circle, and I'm going backwards. That's the very last thing. We're going to stitch that out as a placement line. Now we want to put our shape form down and tape that into place. And here you can do one of two things. You can go ahead and stitch another circle on top of that and then put your fabric down, and then I would stitch it again, or just put this shape form down and put your fabric down on top and stitch your circle again, or whatever shape frame you're using. I'm going to go ahead and tape that. I've got my shape form and my fabric. I'm going to back up my machine one more time and stitch one more circle to hold all of that down, and then we'll move on to the embroidery. Everything's tacked down, and we're back at the beginning of our design again. Since this design is intended for a storage tote, it has these lines that help you line up the design. You want to skip those. Don't stitch those. It looks like they're outside my circle anyway. They would probably get trimmed off if you did that by accident. Not a big deal, but you don't need to stitch them. We're going to start in with the leaves. We'll go ahead and stitch through this design, and when you get to the vase there is an applique for that. I'll go ahead and stitch everything out and put it on the screen to music. Our design has stitched out. What you want to do next is take your two fabric pieces that we folded in half in the beginning. We're going to overlap our project with these. These are our base back fabrics. I'm going to put one right here on top. And if you line it up to the fabric that you're using for your background, you'll have plenty of overlap in the middle. And then I'm going to line up this one on the bottom. You need at least an inch overlap. I have more than enough. I probably could have cut these a little bit smaller. I'm going to go ahead and tug that up a bit. and put that one here. Yep, that gives me about an inch. You want to make sure your entire project is covered, and again, make sure you've got at least an inch overlap. Then we're going to tape this. I'm going to tape all the way across the center and then up at the top and at the bottom. I've got everything taped down. I'm going to stitch that round stitch, and I'm going to stitch it twice. This is our base back fabric, and we're going to be flipping this inside out. I want to make sure it's nice and secure. So stitch it once and then back it up in your machine again to get to that stitch and stitch it again on top of that one. Go ahead and take this off the machine, get your project out of your hoop, take your tape off and cut away some of this excess stabilizer. Here's how it looks. We're going to trim outside of this stitching line. I like to use pinking shears for this step. You can cut it straight or use a rotary cutter. I feel like the pinking shears help because they notch it out a little bit. We're going to flip it right side out and it sort of cuts down on the bulk. I got a little close right here. If you happen to clip your stitches, take it to your sewing machine or hand stitch it back down. We want to make sure this piece stays attached. Got everything cut. I want to get rid of this stabilizer. It's a little bit bulky. I got rid of that extra stabilizer. You can leave it in if you want to, up to you. If you start turning it and it's really hard to turn and then you want to go back and trim that, you can do that. Leave it in, take it out, whatever you like. Go ahead and flip it right side out. You can grab a turner to help you get these edges turned all the way. If it's really puffy and hard to turn, go back and trim a little more bulk off of that. I'm going to do that. And every time I've made one of these rope bowls, they always end up a little curved when I turn them right side out, and I have to take it to the ironing board and iron it flat. I'm going to trim some of this bulk off and then go ahead and turn it. I trimmed off the extra bulk, I turned it, and I took it to my ironing board and I ironed it. When I pressed the front, I did put a piece of fabric over it to protect my stitching. Here's what my base looks like. Nice and flat. We are going to put our base reinforcement inside. I can tell I need to trim a little bit extra because this is the same size as this right now, and I've turned that with the fabric so it's even a little tighter. I'm going to go back and trim a little extra off my base reinforcement. Once it looks like it's going to fit inside, you're going to slide this into your base. All this does is give it a little extra heft. Remember, you've got the two pieces of fabric, so you do end up crunching this up and putting it inside, and like I said, you may need to iron again. This is the way the rope bowls are made. I've made, I think, 5 or 6 of them. And it's the same with everyone. Usually I have to trim the base reinforcement a little bit, make it a little bit smaller, make it fit. It's not a big deal. So fuss with this, get it to fit, and then see if you need to give it one last press. Now that the base is done, we need to get ready to attach our rope. While the glue gun's heating up, I'm going to talk a little bit about the project rope. I've hand dyed my project rope. I mentioned that in the beginning, and that video will be linked below. When you get Kimberbell Project Rope, on the ends it has a nice little plastic piece. You can use this piece. I think this works fine. I've done this before and I've showed it in a rope bowl video. And tuck it in and glue it and press it down. You can also do what they suggest in their instructions for their rope bowls. They have you peel it back and expose the core. There's a core inside, and then use fray preventative. It's already frayed since I cut this off from another project and I hand dyed it. I'm going to use the clean end. And I'm going to tuck this clean end in about an inch underneath and press it down. I'm going to show you one of my other rope bowls. Here's the butterfly rope bowl kit. I did the same thing with this kit. You can see it does stick up just a little bit because all I did was put that clean edge in and then glue it and squish it down. But when you set it on display, it sits flat. The base is squishy. So for me, I'm fine with that, and honestly this one I have up on a shelf kind of at an angle, so it's sitting right here. I don't actually put anything in it because it's too pretty. I have a Sure Bonder high temp glue gun. They make several kinds of glue guns. I bought this model several years ago. I don't know if this particular one's available, but they've got a bunch. Once your glue gun's heated up, take your rope, put it in, give it a good inch underneath, and then get some hot glue in there, just like that, and press it down. Tuck it as far to the edge as you can, and you'll see why when we start sewing our rope bowl. And then just hold it and wait for that to cool. Once that's set, we'll start sewing on our rope. Usually when I work with that glue gun and the hot glue, I have on some silicone finger covers. This fabric is doubled over. It's pretty thick. This is what it's going to look like when you start. And we're going to go to our machine and set up our thread and our zigzag stitch, and I'll teach you how to make your rope bowl. Today I'll be stitching on a Juki QVP. Let's talk about our zigzag stitch. With Kimberbell Project Rope, they recommend starting at 4.5 by 3. My machine doesn't have a 4.5, it has a 4.4. It goes in even numbers. So this is a 4.4 by 3. I've done some other stitches here. Here's 4.4 by 2, 5 by 2, 5.4 by 2, and 6.4 by 2. What you want from your stitch is a stitch that will catch both sides of the rope as it goes back and forth. You can practice on a piece of fabric, fold it in half, and then place it on your rope. I tend to start with a bigger stitch. I'm going to start with this 6.4 by 2 because the first thing we're going to do is attach our rope to the base. I want to make sure that it's going far enough to catch both the base and my project rope. Once we go around one full turn, our rope will start touching rope, and at that time I'll look at my stitch and I may make an adjustment. Part of the reason I like this machine for rope bowls is it's smaller in size. When you're making a rope bowl, after you go around the first time, you're going to start curving your project. I have a larger machine, a Baby Lock Ballad, and it's really big, and I can't curve it up like I can on this machine. You can see I can get quite a significant lift here. On the Ballad, I can only go about like this. So it's okay for big giant bowls, but little bowls, this machine is much better. You've got your rope coming out of the bottom here. Have it facing towards you. My uncoiled rope is over here next to me, nice and loose. It's not in a big ball, it's not knotted or tangled. Make sure it's loose and out of the way. You're going to have to lift your presser foot extra to get this underneath. Just like that. My little presser foot here, it's plastic, and right in the center there's a notch. Where that notch is where I want my base and my rope to match, and then as I go around, rope to rope. I line that up with the center of where I'm stitching. If you don't have a notch or a mark on your presser foot, you could put a little piece of tape on it. I find it very helpful because it helps me line up that intersection and know where I need to be stitching. Once you've got it centered, I'm actually going to hand crank my needle down. I don't have it back far enough. I need to slide this back a little bit because when you're putting this on for the first time, you need to make sure you're going to catch your rope and your base. And I'm also using a really wide stitch. If it ends up being too wide, I'll adjust it right away. We want to slide this underneath. Center that. I'm going to hand crank my needle down. There we go. I'm hitting my rope. I'm going to go ahead and hand crank the first couple of stitches and check my stitch. I can already tell I'm going to catch both. That looks good. I'm just hand cranking it, double checking. After I go around for the first time, I am going to change it. Right now it's at 6.4 and 2. I'm going to lower that 6.4 to probably a 5.4 or a 4.4. But for this first round where everything is flat and I want to make sure I'm anchoring my base, I'm going to keep it extra wide. If you've got a speed control on your machine, mine's up here out of the way. It's got a turtle and a rabbit. I'm going to move it toward the turtle. I'm going to cover it around the middle. I don't want to take the chance I'm going to go too fast. Let's go ahead and stitch our first round of our rope bowl. Make sure you catch your base and your rope. Push your rope against your base, push your base against your rope, and go around for one circle. I made it all the way around, but I noticed as I was coming around the end here and I got to the part where the rope is tucked under and the presser foot tilted, that I think I had a skipped stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my thread and check that. I have a thread cutter on the presser foot of this machine, and I also have a knee lift. I'm going to back up. I have a skipped stitch. I have a few right here. I want to make sure this is anchored nice and tight. I'll just go back to right there. Here's the outer mark, and my needle's in that outer position. I'm going to try to match it up. Not overly concerned. It's sort of hard to see what I'm doing. I'm straddling the tripod. I just want to make sure it's anchored. That's the most important thing. I've got a button on this machine that'll tack it down. Do that first, and then I'm just going to stitch until I overlap where the good stitching is. That was right there. Not the prettiest, but honestly, you're not going to see it once you build up your rope bowl. I'm going to make my stitch length a little bit shorter. Right now it's 6'4", Now that I've got everything attached to the base, I'm going to bring it down to 5.42, and now we're going to continue around. Once I start back and I'm getting on the rope and rope, I'm going to begin tilting up my bowl. As far as how many times around we're going to go, that's dependent on how much rope I have sitting here and how big I want to make my rope bowl. Let's go ahead and start again. I'm going to back up a little bit and over stitch, and we'll do that first roll around. I'm going to lift my project, and something I forgot to mention, this is just a regular needle. You can put a heavy duty needle if you want. I just use the regular needle. It's fine, it works. Here we go. I'm missing my rope. Part of the problem is the excess rope is over on this side. It needs to be on the other side. Move your rope, get it out of the way. If that happens, back up. I can see I didn't quite hit it there, and I wasn't turning it enough. I'm going to back up a little bit and tack it down and keep going. We've gone all the way around once. I pulled the camera back a little bit more. Now you don't need to see as close on the presser foot. Keep lifting in. Lift it and work it, and we'll just go around until it gets to be about the size that we want it to be, or run out of rope, whichever comes first. Here we go. I'm going to stop here just for a minute. Here's where we started. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is row 6. If you want more of a tray, like a shallow tray, that might be big enough for you. I'm going to keep going. I think I can go around a couple more times with this rope. I want to try and use up all of this rope. Another thing you may have noticed is once I've got this going, I tend to hold the rope like this, and this hand doesn't move very much. It keeps it steady, and this hand supports the base. As you get near the end of your rope, also keep in mind where you're going to place your finish. This is very pretty. I want to see this embroidery. This is probably going to go up on a shelf. So I don't want to put the coil down here on the base. It'll make it hard to sit. I'm going to want to finish at the top of my bowl. I'm going to keep that in mind as I'm watching my rope go around. I could also finish on the sides, but I think I'll finish this one at the top. That's right about at the top of my bowl. I'm going to back stitch it too, just in case. And then go forward again. Cut my thread. And then look at that right here. I have a couple skipped stitches. If you're getting a lot of skip stitches, and my guess is, my problem is, I can't remember the last time I changed my needle. I probably should have changed my needle before I started. I've done several rope projects on this machine. Change your needle. And before you step away from your machine, you can turn your bowl, look for any more skip stitches, see if you have any spots where there's a hole. Fix it now while you're sitting at your machine. The rest of it looks pretty good. Let's go talk about finishing options. Got a couple rope projects here. We can talk about the finishing. The butterfly rope bowl came in a kit, and it had the leather tag you could embroider and a tassel. I'm not going to do that today. If anybody's interested in this, let me know. Maybe I can make another rope project. I do have leather and tassels left over. I'm going to do a bead finish today. Here's a couple bead finishes I did. This is the May Hoop Studio, and it came with the red beads. I put mine in the center of my coil. They show it at the top. If you like it like this, that's what we're going to do today with the bead in the center. You can put it at the top. All you do is before you wrap your coil, the bead slides on the rope, and then you wrap your coil and glue it down. This is the Hoppy Easter rope bowl. This is from the Holiday Rope Bowl collection. I'll put the link below for that. This colored rope came from the Mountain Thread Company. I did the rope coil in front with the bead in the middle. That's what I'm going to do today, except we're going to finish it right here at the top. That way, when it's on display, when it's sitting on a shelf, you'll be able to see that bead here at the top. Let's look at our project and some of the beads that I have on hand. This bead is in the Butterfly Rope Bowl kit. I don't think the color matches very well. I'm going to put that back for another time. And actually that tassel that I had on my Butterfly Rope Bowl came out of this package. This is the Kimberbell Happy Place Embroidery Projects Embellishment Kit. I'll link that below. That's got the leather, the tassels, colored beads. I've used some up. And it has some big brown flower beads. I've got everything out of the plastic. The Hoop Studio kit also came with extra beads, but they're red. Let's look at the colored beads. I don't like that. Not for this project. It's pretty, and actually you could paint this if you wanted to paint it a different color. It's a little bit slick. You might have to rough it up first, but you could definitely paint that. I don't think it matches this project. I have these 3 beads left. All of them would work. It's a question of what do I want in the center of my rope coil. What you can do, just wrap some rope. Give you an idea what it looks like. I'm going to be putting it in the center here. Do I want pink? The pink looks good. Blue? No, I don't like the blue against the teal. Or white. Ooh. I like the white. I think the white is going to look the best. The pink's pretty good, but I already have a couple of colors of pink and it's not quite the right match. I think the white is a really nice contrast. I'm going to go with the white. This is how much rope I have left. I started with 29 feet. Let's see how many times we got to go around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We went around 12 times. Let's measure this. It's about 9 inches, almost exactly. And 3 1/4 inches tall. Our base is about 5¼ inches, 5½ inches. How much rope do you need for your coil? I eyeball it. I bring it around. I figure out where it's going to go. You probably should have stitched a little bit further this way, but it will be okay. It'll get glued down. I'm going to roll the coil. That looks pretty good, and I'm going to have a bead in the center. I'm going to cut it right there. Grab some scissors. Go ahead and cut. And we're going to get our hot glue gun and finish our project. I've got my flaming hot glue gun over there. These are the silicone finger protectors. You can look them up online and buy them, maybe buy them in craft stores. Got the end of your rope and your bead. You can also buy beads in craft stores as well. These are nice. They fit right over the project rope. I'm going to leave just a little bit of space there. I'm going to fill that with glue and then give it a minute to cool. That will hold my bead onto the rope. Once that's cool, we're going to start curling the rope around the bead. And that's all there is to it. I try to keep the glue on the inside, but if you've worked with glue guns before, you know that sometimes it just squishes out and then you end up needing to pull it and pull the glue strings off. I think you can probably hear my canary. He always seems to make an appearance when I'm filming. And today when I filmed, I purposefully did not do laundry and then my husband threw laundry in. See the glue? Roll it in on itself. And just give it a few seconds to cool. And we're going to keep going all the way around until we create our coil. I decided to put an extra one on because I nearly nailed that finger. Be careful with the hot glue gun, folks. Dangers of crafting. I've got my coil all set to go. If you've got a little bit of ugly gluey bits, most of the time the glue strings can be pulled and picked off. If you've got a little mound of glue, you can take your glue gun tip, don't squeeze it, don't bring out any extra glue, reheat it to melt it, and then use your protected finger and smooth that out. And that'll get rid of the ugly mound of glue. To glue this to your bowl, put glue underneath, glue it to your bowl. Really easy. I'm going to do that, and I'm trying to make sure I center my bead, and then I'll go back one more time, pull off any little loose glue bits, look for any glue blobs or anything that needs to be smoothed out, and then I'll be done. You can also add a little bit of extra glue right in here if you didn't stitch quite far enough, which was the case for me. I should have stitched about another inch. A little bit of glue will keep that on just fine. Press it into place, wait for it to cool, and then remove any glue bits, glue strings, yucky glue blobs, all that stuff. You are all done. You now have a custom, one-of-a-kind, nobody else has anything like it, rope bowl. I hope you've enjoyed making this with me. If you haven't watched the video yet on how to color your rope with grit dye, go ahead and watch that. I'll link it in the description box below. Please like, subscribe, and share. I'll be doing lots more Kimberbell embroidery and rope crafts. If there's a particular project you'd like to see, leave it in the comments below for me. Thank you so much for joining me. See you next time.